Hey, good afternoon, everybody. This is Chris Frew with BioBuzz, welcoming you back to another episode of What's the Buzz? Today, I'm really excited to feature another guest, where we're talking again about analytics, which is the theme and topic for the month. I feel like I'm just becoming adopted analytics scientist here, Amir. But Amir Liba, who leads a team of sales and application and technical specialists across the U.S. and Canada for Agilent Technologies. Amir, welcome.
Thank you, Chris. Much appreciated. I appreciate the opportunity.
My pleasure. Well, today we're going to talk all about analytical science and how it's really become a real engine for modern drug development. And I'm excited to dig into that. Before we jump in, Amir, let me give a little show notes and shout out to our annual sponsor, Heffron and Company. These BioBuzz programs are all about connecting with ecosystem builders, right? And what I love about Agilent is, you're a household name in analytical instrumentations, but a lot of people, they might not know that you guys are building community every day, right? You have a whole community of analytical scientists and people working, and that's why we're partnering with you, because we love how you really kind of look at the people you support as part of a community. And BioBuzz thinks the same way. And there's one of the top community builders we know is Heffron and Company. They're literally building the community, building the ecosystem. So they're a leading mechanical and engineering services firm based out of Maryland. But if you drive up and down 95 or I-270 corridor and you start looking at the facilities you pass, there's a huge chance that they were the mechanical firm behind it. They've been around for 104 years. They're a specialist in the field. Colin, who's the president and CEO, and their team is absolutely salt of the earth and fully dedicated, not only to their clients and but the patients they serve. And we just really appreciate that about them, and are very glad and proud to have them as our annual sponsor for What's the Buzz, and just supporting this community in general. So thank you, Heffron and Company, for being our annual sponsor for the podcast.
Thank you on my behalf as well.
Indeed, I hope you'll get a chance to meet them soon, Amir. They're great.
I wrote their name down. That's for sure.
Yeah. So let's dive into things, Amir. Do you mind taking a quick second just to do a personal introduction, just give a little bit about yourself and kind of your position at Agilent?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been with Agilent for over 18 years. I've held various positions throughout. My first introduction to Agilent was straight from academia, really into the application realm. So I was very much infused with analytical methods from the start with Agilent, and this is where I really get a profound understanding of what customers really want. I had a very brief stint within marketing that lasted for about a year and a half, and then I transitioned into becoming one of the commercial leaders within Agilent, and I held a variety of positions throughout the last probably 12 or 13 years, which I love and I adore until today. My team, which is there are sales teams, but we also have applications and product specialists on the team. They govern sales and support of our customers across North America as a whole, and that pretty much sums it up.
Well, that's great. So one of the things that I'm really excited to talk to you about, and we just talked to Amon last week, and we talked a little bit about this, but you guys are bringing a big analytical biopharma innovation summit to Philadelphia in just about a month's time. So I want to tell me why you guys are hosting this summit, and what really stood out about Philadelphia as like the place to kind of launch this initiative.
Absolutely. So on September 16th, Agilent is going to be hosting what we call the Biopharma Analytical Innovation Summit, where we have invited speakers again across the kind of biopharma workflows, specifically discussing around the quality control, quality assurance, providing a lot of information across the Agilent portfolio, but portfolio in general, for looking at drug development and drug discovery. The multiple modalities that will be discussed, or we're going to have multiple tracks, across oligos, peptides, and obviously proteins. Now, the question is, why Philadelphia? It's a great question. And by the way, I'm very biased to why Philadelphia, because I literally live 15 minutes outside of Philadelphia on the New Jersey side, but nonetheless, 15 minutes outside of Philadelphia. So, Philadelphia, but it's not just Philadelphia, it's really the suburbs of the tri-states, from Maryland, obviously, to New Jersey and Pennsylvania kind of as a whole, really has become central and essential to the development of, new grounds for pharma and biopharma. And it's not just the big conglomerates that are now building facilities, at least, or have been present in these areas. It's really about the startups, the CROs, the CDMOs, and incubators that are also joining hand in hand. So you have this really focal point of so many of these, pharma and biopharma entities, as you may. But in addition to these, Philadelphia and its suburbs houses great academic institutions, great communities. They house research hospital. Take CHOP, the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, as an example. And these provide very strong local talent base, which is a feeding ground for a lot of these biopharmas and the CROs and everything else that is around. So it's really a great ecosystem of innovation, ecosystem for development, and also manufacturing, to say the least. So what this summit will actually do, and why it will take place in Philly, and might I add, it's the city of brotherly love, let's not forget, is really a great chance to bring all of these entities under a single roof for a collaborative approach into what the topic at hand today, which is drug development, drug design, and the analytical engine. So that is why Philadelphia, aside from my bias, of course.
Well, I think you could be putting that on the billboard for the Philadelphia region if you wanted to.
There you go.
I love that. I love that. The visual I got is everybody under one roof, right? So you're providing great programming, but there's also this other great opportunity for attendees to connect with one another, right? So I think that's part of the community building that I know that you all are interested in. It's not only the educational programming, the instrumentation presentations, but bringing the community together to collaborate and connect and kind of collide, from different companies and academia and industry. Like that's part of it as well, right?
Oh, no, that is absolutely paramount, right? I mean, bringing all of these entities together with a mindset of a collaborative approach for a better future around drug design and drug development. Again, I think it's absolutely critical. So these are grounds to do exactly that. And I'm glad that Agilent just is an enabler in this case.
So you have a great vantage point, Amir, right? So you oversee kind of this a large North America purview. So I'm curious, from what are the trends and things you see happening in the industries from an analytical lens from that purview?
So it's interesting. A lot of what we have developed, what Agilent had focused on in terms of analytical techniques, really requires us to learn and look at the challenges that are in front of us, not from a commercial perspective, but really from the lens of the consumer. And that's kind of where it all really, really starts. And I'll kind of go over a little bit of journey that I had and kind of give you a little bit of the perspective and the vantage point that I learned throughout my postgraduate career. So I started in academia. I was really a co-director of a brand new core lab out at the Department of Chemistry and Biochemistry out in UCLA. And that really gave me a appreciation for analytical techniques as a tool to enable, as a tool to actually assist and help a lot of the professors, a lot of the graduate students and postdocs, the personnel out in UCLA. The other part of my position really required me to look at various analytical techniques, specifically new analytical techniques, and then purchasing these hardwares for the utilization of the core facility. And Let me tell you, the post purchase and after you get the training and the understanding of the instrument, I remember sitting in front of a couple of the new instruments that I purchased, and I had this blank look in my face, and I was looking literally at a bucket of bolts right in front of me, if I may say it. Yeah, and I felt so hopeless because even though I received the training, I really didn't know how to take that first step. And God forbid if there was any issue, a red light started and all of that, how to overcome these things. That for me, that feeling is still resonating with me until today. So I took this, and as I was hired into Agilent, and Agilent really gave me a very, very close interaction capabilities with our customers. And what I realized is that many of our customers are actually in the same position that I was back then are in now. They have these feelings of hopelessness. So then I had a chance to spend a lot of time with these scientists and a lot of the lab and consumers, and develop a lot of the appreciation, right, and understand really what success looks like, not from my perspective, but from the other side of the instrument, from their perspective. So again, this transition into commercial leader is really what I took out of my experiences and kind of brought them forward. So it's not that any other commercial leader with different viewpoints or different background will not have the similar perspective, but I feel that my journey at least gave me a detailed view of what customers actually want, what they're looking for, what is their perspective of what I need to provide them.
Yeah, that's that's an amazing perspective to take, right? So as a product company, right, you serve these customers. So being able to start your journey as a customer, right, and know the emotions and the feeling,
Exactly.
I'm sure I can tell just by talking to you how that has dictated how you approach, a lot of probably what you do. Yeah,
Oh,
really.
we talked about building communities, right? I mean, this industry as a whole is very embracing.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's very inclusive. It's very embracing. Obviously, there are certain things that let's say Merck cannot talk with J&J, and J&J cannot
Yeah,
talk to Merck. I mean, these are the obviouses of the world, right? But then at the foundation level, I think utilization of all of these analytical capabilities is shared across the vast majority of those who are involved.
yeah, absolutely. And again, I think what I love about it, I have 22 years now in the industry, and it's everybody's working at the end of the day for their parent or their sibling, or I mean there's somebody else in mind that people are working for every day, and I think that fuels a lot of this, kind of collaboration mindset, and community mindset as we go forward.
Absolutely.
So we had talked about this and previously, but I cover a lot of news, Amir, right? And so and it's always like the molecule that gets the headline, right? Right. So molecule gets the headline. That's the big story. But when I work with people, and I'm sure when you work with people, um, it comes down to the data, right? The method is like
Oh,
what sets the schedule and kind of drives things. And I hear a lot about that. Like that's where the game is won or lost. I mean, is that a fair characterization from your perspective? Is that an overstatement? What do you think?
so it's an interesting question. I think relatively speaking, I think it's a fair statement. But again, it very much depends. We talk about perspectives. It very much depends where you're coming from. What is your vantage point? What position you're coming from when you're looking at this? So let's think about this a little bit. The vast majority of consumers nowadays, I mean, they have access to final products, right? These final products contain the active pharmaceutical ingredient, the API, right? It's only a very small subset of individuals that are actually very much or acutely aware and understand the road that it actually takes to develop a drug or to synthesize a molecule that is responsible for, let's say, alleviating a headache that you may have. So we have these kind of two, not really opposing, they're all consumers, but one that actually has profound understanding of the entire workflow, and those that are very aware of what the product that they're buying will provide them. So the typical workflow, I think everybody kind of understands, of designing an effective drug really begins at discovery, when you're looking at multiple potential molecules, and that's where you identify them. It then kind of moves into the development stage, right, where you undergo characterization and really understanding what this molecule is all about, and then hopefully, if that is deemed safe enough, you go through clinical trials, right, until it may very well become a consumer product that you purchase. Now, the journey really takes multiple years, takes a lot of money, right, and really requires um, a lot of bright scientists and bright individuals, right, to develop this molecule. But it's not just about the molecule, and this is where the case is. It's really about the method development, because the molecule is the end product. What happens, upstream of that end product is really important. Why? Because these analytical methods are critically important for testing of things like efficacy, things like stability, things like safety of this molecule. So if you just kind of remember, things as simple, let's use an example, like oxidation of an enzyme, right? I mean, you have an enzyme, you have an active site, that enzyme binds this active site, and it's great. What happens when you get oxidation of this active site? So again, the three-dimensional structure of this enzyme abrogates any sort of binding, which now the enzyme is inactive. Similarly, can happen to these drugs, right? I mean, these drugs, if they get oxidized, they are rendered practically useless. This is what I think in Eamon's podcast, this is what he talked about, the critical quality attributes, which are the same kind of thing. So even though analytical methods, they often determine how quickly you go to market, right? So yes, it is the molecule that gets a lot of the headlines, but I do think that, overcoming the challenges that are associated with drug discovery, drug design is equally deserving of credit, but it definitely does set the tone.
Yeah. Speaking of that, it kind of leads into another question, the analytics controlling time to market. Where do you see that those programs often lose time to analytics? Is the technology a core component to that? Is it a people problem, an organizational one? Do you have any insight to that? I mean, what's unleashing or moving that time to market faster?
Oh, sure. So look, analytics is an incredibly critical part to our daily routine. Irrelevant of the market that you cater to, analytics is really designed to ensure that the testing is done accurately, the data produced is defensible, and ultimately, I think it's about product safety, right? So I think that all three are really contributing. It's not about necessarily the lost time to analytics. I think technology contributes some to the problem, people, and also kind of the organization as a whole. I think the industry today has access to much of the analytical platforms that it actually needs. I also think that the specialized group of scientists and individuals that are there not just to run the instruments or to run the samples, if you may, but they're there for a vastly more important job, which is interpreting the data. How does the data get interpreted? I think it's absolutely critically important. So most often, right, it is the organization or the organizational decision, if you may, that kind of result in these delays. So it's not about generating data, but it's really aligning the people around what the data means, right, and what actions need to be taken. That is critically important. That's probably the likely cause of some of these lost time to market.
Yeah, that's great perspective. They say companies are people, product, and technology, right? And, and so the organization has to. What I'm hearing is like, the organization's ability to lead and direct, and guide around the right data and guide around the right tools. But the people and technology are there, right? That's what you're saying. The people
absolutely
and the technology capabilities probably now more than ever, right?
Well, without a doubt. I mean, we have a great set of R&D individuals, and it's across multiple vendors. Obviously, I'm not just talking specifically about us, but again, in general, we do have these capabilities around. So it's just the assurance that I guess an organization needs that the program that yielded whatever drug product we're pushing forward will absolutely or appropriately be placed in the market.
Yeah. So speaking about like the data and the things like that, so pipelines now and the breadth of pipelines move towards like peptides, aglio, complex biologics, right? You hear
Yes.
there's a lot of that. Um, what's that actually demanded of the analytical toolbox these days? Like where is that being strained?
Okay, so let's start by just saying the importance of small molecule therapeutics remains absolutely critical, again, for humanity's current and obviously future well-being. But in the past, however, many years, we have been seeing a very deliberate shift from small synthetic molecules to large biologics or large biological molecules. And there are many reasons to why we see the shift. Some of these reasons are the specificity that biologics actually afford you, specificity specifically around very, very difficult targets. Think about oncology as an example, and the targets that it requires. It brings in and yields greater safety, right, and also reduced to some extent reduced side effects. These are just some of the few reasons that encouraged us as an industry to kind of go for that shift. But in designing these small molecules, if you would, one of the main questions that somebody asks is, did I really synthesize the correct compound, number one, and is it pure or how pure is it? As you transition to more biologicals, to these higher end modalities, these biotherapeutics, the questions are, number one, they're numerous and they're a little more complex, I would say, in nature. So things like product heterogeneity, existence of variants, right, within the synthesis. And then what are the possible alterations? We talked about oxidation as one mode, but what are some of the alterations that could happen in manufacturing? These are only some of the few questions. So with these new modalities, the analytical workflow really has become far more, I would probably qualify it as multidimensional in a way. And to accommodate these analytical demands, mass spectrometry, if you use that as an example, had to advance from the ability to confirm that the product exists to really a tool that allowed to characterize this particular biologic, right? And that is really where high resolution, accurate mass spectrometry come into play. So we made great strides, evolutionary and revolutionary strides in mass spectrometry as a tool. And from developing these analytical tools, kind of serving the drug industry or the drug development industry very, very well. So that is already there. Now, to answer where is it strained, it's really around data complexity, which we talk about in interpretation. For that, we need those bright individuals that are localized in Philadelphia.
I love it. And people are always at the heart, are they not?
Yeah, they absolutely are.
Yeah. Well, let's pivot to talk a little bit more like regulatory. I'd love to get your perspective on that. I'm sure and this is going to be part of the topics at the symposium coming up in September. But some additional regulatory elements like ICH Q14, Q2, R2, you reframed some of the analytical procedure as a life cycle rather than one-time deliverable. So from where you sit, has the industry kind of internalized that? Where are you seeing your customers and kind of the industry kind of sitting with that?
So ICH, for those who are not aware, ICH is the International Addict Committee Consortium for Harmonization. They basically look at various pharmacopoeia entities of multiples of geographies and countries, like USP, JP for Japan, the Chinese, and also out in Europe. What they try to do is try to harmonize these guidelines, especially across pharma and biopharma industries. These two particular guidelines that you brought up are really there to provide science-based, as I recall, and also risk-based kind of framework around putting out analytical protocols, putting out validation protocols, and in the development of therapeutic drugs. And it's really to ensure the quality and the safety, right, of the drugs that we're putting out to market. So what are they actually asking biopharma and pharma industry to do? It is really asking them to reframe their approach to analytical method design initially we used to, or we currently even do, we develop an analytical method, we validate the analytical method, and we kind of store it. So we use it and store it, kind of rinse and repeat, use and store, use and store. And we need to have kind of a mentality shift across analytical methodology to say we should now design the analytical method. We really need to qualify this analytical method, monitor it as it move around, but always and continuously improve the method. So then why is it really needed to go from a let me just analyze to actually look at a total life cycle? We talked about these different modalities. So we continue to develop these newer biologics and these newer modalities. Inevitably, these will require some augmentation of the analytical methods. So simply saying that we will need to continuously improve these analytical methods through these life cycles discussions, not just in the beginning or not just at delivery to the market, but throughout the commercial life of the product. So that's why we need a life cycle rather than this one endpoint or a finish line, or what I call a validation-centric mindset.
Now, are you seeing any tension with that? I mean, that adds cost, right? So,
Yes.
so are you seeing and hearing, with the additional burden of justifying this kind of continuous life cycle approach with the analytical work to compete for budget for that, right? Like, especially these days, right? It's speed to market, it's flexibility. How do we get, the budgets are lower than they have been in the past. So are you seeing, how are your customers kind of responding to that?
Absolutely. And again, being part of a sales organization, I would say, welcome to the family. I think
Yeah.
I don't. Again, I'm sure there are, but I'm not so much aware of any organization that has no budget discussions and all that. Analytical methodologies, the same. So what I really see, again, from within the industry, but also internal to Agilent, we have our own internal business case frameworks that we have to be guided by. Is really that most of successful labs that are out there have really stopped positioning their analytical work as a cost center. So think about that, right? Instead of just saying this will cost you X in order to do Y, what they're doing instead is reframing it as a business enabler, right? With not just a business enabler, but they are providing upper management measurable outcomes. So let's think this through just a little bit beyond what I just said. Positioning analytical work, right, is a mean to drive. We talked about risk reduction. We talked about improved quality, and obviously short time to market. I think has a nearly direct correlation to wider margins and also greater revenue. Now, say that to upper management, and all of a sudden, budget discussions is viewed a little better. So successful labs then really leverage, I think, business cases around shorter time to market, lower cost, lower headcount, fewer errors, right? Reduction in compliance, right? All for this kind of a measurable, wider margin and increased revenue. And that is why making the business case is really important.
Now, are you available for department heads to get coaching on how to get those budgets increased, or is that something? Because you articulated that really well.
As you know, I'm fortunate enough to work with a lot of bright individuals at Agilent and even our customers, right?
Yeah.
And these discussions, remember, we go into budget discussions in every single opportunity, sale opportunity, and whatnot. So these are not foreign discussions to any of us.
So Amir, a collaboration, right, is at the heart of a lot of what you do at Agilent, right? I've heard it. We've heard it today. You collaborate, and I mean, you put yourself in your customer's seat. You collaborate with the industry. You're collaborating, again. So at the summit, you have, Agilent, USP will be there as part of the programming and sharing insights, and regional drug developers all in the same room.
Yes.
So what do you see, like, really genuinely good collaboration between an instrument maker and a standards body? Like, what does that collaboration really look like?
Okay, so that is a really good question, because I do have firsthand experience actually with that. So that is funny. So early in my Agilent career, I was actually involved with providing some analytical opinions and expertise for the early development of the monographs with USP 232 and 233. And for those who don't not aware what these monographs are, these are monographs that basically set the testing procedures and limits for elemental impurities in drug products. So I remember this one, and this kind of a side note. One of the earliest meetings that we had, we were invited by the FDA. We came across, and a lot of the people who are much brighter than I am, we were all sitting in the middle, providing our opinions and everything else. And right in the periphery of this entire room, and it was a fairly large room, we had all of these people that are just sitting around saying absolutely nothing. So I asked my colleague, I said, "Who are these individuals?" And he said, "Oh, these are the lobbyists." So rest assured that biopharma was actually there in full force. But again, if you're talking about genuinely good collaboration, as you stated, I think I can pretty much sum it with probably 3 or 4 bullet points. Number one, come prepared for an open dialogue. Don't have any, preconceived or misconceptions. Just have an open mind and for a dialogue. Make sure that you have a very meaningful collaborative agenda, right? With set goals and obviously set outcomes. Part of these goals and outcomes really, with the understanding, need to understand a lot of the analytical capabilities. Can we? What are the drug efficacies that we are actually looking for? And obviously consumer safety, which is a must. So we have, when we come into these, you have to have a very, very strong and be very mindful of the fact that it's not about who wins or who gets what they want. Set that aside. The greatest value really comes from achieving a much more reliable set of results. And again, I'm going to go back to what we said twice before, lowering a lot of the risk, really being able to defend, right, a lot of these combined decisions. And that is why these forums are critically important. They nurture collaboration and they prevent, as best they can, any future breakdown. We have AOAC, we have a lot of collaborations with US Pharmacopoeia and various other conglomerates. And I think it's absolutely wonderful and it's absolutely necessary.
Yeah. So, and that's a really good, I guess, precursor for what to expect, I guess, at the summit, right? That's the type of environment you all are fostering at the summit. So I think that's a really good kind of statement or precursor to what people can bring to on September 16th.
Absolutely.
No. So in terms of like innovation, right? Analytical innovation, right? You guys are at the forefront. Now you're all, you released several new instrumentations this year.
Correct.
What's the kind of impetus of that? Does it come from is it the vendor R&D, customer's problem that gets like, or is regulatory environment drive it? All three? Like, how do you in your career, how do you look at innovation and kind of driving that forward?
So I have more of an insider look into this, I think. And so I would probably say it's a very well-rounded mix of all three. But if we have to put it in some sort of a hierarchy, let me then first define what I think, and again, what Agilent think, because I kind of stole the definition from Agilent, if you don't mind. But the way that we think about innovation is really making things better through creativity. That's really what we talk about innovation. So typically, we start with some sort of a problem. Usually, it is a consumer or a customer problem. That problem is then kind of looked at, and we kind of scratch our head. But then we go to our fellow R&D individuals, and what R&D initially does is really check for technical feasibility. Is this something that we can cater to right now? Is it something that needs to be developed? And in this developmental stage, is it well, I should say development. In the development stage, I should say, do we actually have access to what is actually needed? It then goes to the regulatory bodies, and these regulatory bodies determine adoption. So the spark, I would say, is really the customer challenge, right? R&D then develops the solution, and then when regulatory bodies recognize the value, that's what drives adoption. And this is one of the reasons that Agilent as a vendor collaborates hand in hand with a lot of these regulatory bodies.
Yeah, that's a good pipeline perspective at all. But again, I love it. It's grounded in the customer, right? There's always, you're always going to identify first and foremost a problem the customer is going to have.
Absolutely.
So Amir, this has been great. First of all, I've really enjoyed talking with you. Thank you for
Likewise.
joining me.
Likewise.
A couple of my takeaways. One is like the people are important, right? Like people are at the center of everything, right? So that's I love that you started off, talking about how again you started off in the buyer seat, and
Yes.
we've talked a lot about how like the technology is there, but it's all about the decisions people make and then the experts in the room that can analyze it. So I'm biased because BioBuzz is a community platform. We're all about the people, but that's my read from what we talked a lot about today.
Absolutely. I don't think it's just BioBuzz. I think really it's the community, it's the people within this community. Agilent does have something called the Agilent community, which is, a kind of a field of both technical individuals and all of our customers, whoever would like to join. That's where we kind of throw back. It's kind of almost like a bulletin board where we throw questions to one another. We solve problems to one another. The what ifs come across and all of that. So it's a really, really great platform. But absolutely, I mean, without communities, without all of us coming together, I think we would be completely in a different place than we are today.
Well, I'm for one looking forward to September 16th for the community that shows up, or for the Biopharma Analytical Innovation Summit. So if there was one thing you'd want a QC director or analytical development scientist to know about the event and to walk away with on September 16th, what would that be?
Ooh, what would that be? I think that I would like to continue to nurture our collaborative conversations. I would like QA, QC, and others to know that Agilent is a trusted partner, right? And we are very much invested in providing innovative products, provide solutions to a lot of the analytical laboratories across all markets. I know we are talking about, we're talking about drug development, we're talking about biopharma and pharma, but it's really across all markets. QA QC lab as well, obviously, yes. So this is kind of where I think the benefit of such forums, and the more we have them, the more we bring these people together, the better we will be at the end.
So what I'm hearing is this is this is an event that you come and you leave, and it's a one-day thing. You're there for the event. This is it sounds like this is a stop on a journey for many who've known Agilent for many times, and a starting point for maybe some new relationships. But this is by no means a one-day event. This is a continuum that you're starting here.
This is where we start forging relationships and collaborations that hopefully will last the test of time, right? I mean, this is really where we find new people, we find new thought leaders. It's going to be a great event, without a doubt.
Well, Amir, thank you so much. I really appreciate you carving off time today, and again, it's been great talking with you and getting to know you better. I'm for one definitely looking forward to the part of my journey where I get to see everybody in person in a month's time from now. So again, any closing thoughts?
It was an absolute delight. I really appreciate the opportunity.
And I'm glad you don't have a far drive either on the 16th.
No, I don't. On the 16th, which is, by the way, my son's birthday, I'll be driving right across the river.
Oh, that's great. Well, that's easy to do. Well, again, to everybody who tuned in today, thank you for tuning in and trusting BioBuzz as a partner in the information that you get about the leaders like Amir and Agilent who are really forging community and helping the industry to move forward. Just some foreshadowing of what's coming up. August is kind of a month where we're working every day, but our events are on holiday, if you will. But September is going to come out really hot. We got the Agilent event on the 16th. Our really good partners at Connor Strong and Buckaloo, they're right across the river in New Jersey as well. They've got the best view of Philadelphia. It looks right down into the city from top floor. We're going to be hosting a really great event, the convergence of life science and healthcare and really moving patient medicine forward. And we've got some great speakers for that event, some industry leaders. And we're really going to be talking about the role that healthcare systems have in moving products forward and collaborating with pharma and biopharma better. So, please check out our events calendar. I hope you all will come to that. That's going to be a really incredible program. And I can't say enough about Connor Strong and Buckaloo. They're one of the leading risk management and benefit providers in the life science industry. For firms like them, they have a specialized practice. So you're talking to risk management and benefits brokers who actually know the industry and can spell PCR and know what the difference between a phase 1 trial is and basic research. So those are that's the team that I trust, and I always recommend to anybody that's advancing their field. But that's the next big event outside of the summit. So I hope you all will come out and join us. And until then, we'll be back in just a couple of weeks with the next What's the Buzz. So Amir, this is not goodbye. This is see you in a couple of weeks.
Absolutely, without a doubt.
So thank